Welcome, beautiful souls, to our transmission of the Royal Rebirth event. I'm beyond honored to introduce you to our first speaker, Anabel Vizcarra, an embodiment mentor, womb shaman, and a queen who has earned her crown in her journey through the underworld and out of it. Annabelle's journey is nothing short of extraordinary. She has navigated her own deep underworld of transformation and re-emergence. She realized that a woman's embodied healing is not only a personal journey, but it becomes a beacon of light to the world, and it pours radiance and grace and beauty, touching others in a way that only her soul print can. Isn't this delicious? Such a beautiful line of work and such a beautiful way of living life. But I'm going to let Annabelle introduce herself with her power and her energy and her presence. Annabelle, welcome to this event. How are you?
I'm well and so grateful and happy to be here with you today. And thank you, Monica, for the invitation and for inviting me on here to share and with you, for everybody tuning in or listening in. Hello and welcome to this space. And so let's see a little bit about me. Is that right? So I am an embodiment mentor, and I work with mostly women who are in leadership positions, or and that could be a mother in your home or in the boardroom. And I help them. I use my method that helps them soften where they need to soften and harden where they need to harden. That way, we can achieve a perfect harmony of that middle path of being assertive, not passive, not aggressive, but assertive in the way that we approach life, in the way that we receive love, and the way that we show up for our assignment.
Mm, beautiful. And because you're also a womb shaman, I'm going to be asking you many questions about that connection between the
Lord.
womb and our royalty. And I'm going to actually begin with that question. As women, we're so disconnected from the power of our womb. And we don't know how to access it. We don't know how to feel it. We don't know what it means. But when we tune in with our wombs, in your experience, what does royalty mean? How does it feel to embody the divine essence of a royal being in your body?
Yes. Beautiful question. And you're approaching it from such a delicious word, right? Royalty. The womb is really our throne. And that this is how it feels in the body. When we are connected to our womb, it means that we are actually sitting, living from our throne. And in this theme of royalty, we become benevolent queens, and that means being able to be connected to our lineage, which a lot of imprints live within our womb, and being able to be in that communion and that connection. One of the ways, we're speaking into subtle things here, right? But one of the things that's very overt is when we're desiring to go into the womb space or connect or reconnect with the womb space. One of the first ways that we can begin to speak with it is by acknowledging the symptoms that we have physically. So there's a lot of things that happen, cis, painful periods, or just different things that those are not normal per se. They're actually the womb speaking of something that is either lacking or there's too much of. And so that's where I like to begin the journey of the womb at times, because when I say sit down and connect with your womb, place your hands over your belly, that is a great way to do it. But in order to get really practical, and I am about practicality, we are royalty in practical ways. and that means looking physically, what has my womb already expressed, so that I can start to collect those clues into what is it that it needs. And that's how we form the first connection most of the time. And then from there it evolves, because as you know, and many of your listeners probably are familiar with this, there is always an energetic source to any symptom. And that energetic source is actually letting us know what we're missing, what we're needing to work with. So that's an easy, practical way to connect. If you are having any sort of womb ailments, they are messengers for that connection.
So I love that you're saying that, because I feel like as queens, as royals, we sometimes forget that we have so much power in our bodies. And that's what it's trying to manifest. That's what it's trying to express how powerful you are to make decisions, how powerful you are to be unique, to be authentic, and to carve a path, to walk a path that nobody else had walked before. In order to do that, that connection with your womb is so essential. And I wish that younger women could
Mhm.
talk more about that. And like in a world where we have trends and social media is telling us like what's cool and how you will be seen and valued, um I wish that we could tune in with our womb more often,
Mhm.
and know from a divine perspective and from a rooted, grounded perspective, what is it to feel actually validated by the queendom, and what is it to feel royal inside and to feel in charge of your decisions, of your consumption, of your presence, filling a room. So I wish that since we're younger, we could talk more about these, because we're not reclaiming that royalty that we're born into.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Hmm.
Mm.
My second question to you, Annabelle, speaking about this connection from a younger age, what is the price that we pay when we say no to our divine royalty? And how does it manifest in our lives when we deny ourselves this birthright of fully embodying our power and our grace?
Mm. Wow, these powerful questions, Monica. This one of the things that when we are reconnecting to our womb and we are on this journey of healing and stepping into that royalty, right, unfolding into it, I really believe through my experience, and that when we are away from it, when we are separated from it, when we have forgotten, when we are numb, then that's where things like depression, isolation, comparison, not good enough, all of those worthiness things really begin to get amplified, because we're looking for a sense of belonging in the external world or from the external world, where really the sense of belonging can only be internal, can only be when we have reconnected to the source of our life, to the source of our creation. And so I really feel that the price that we pay is that we live unlived lives, that we live other people's lives, and the dreams that and the gifts that are to come through us, the assignment that we agreed to in order to incarnate on earth, it dies with us. And that, I believe, is a really painful experience, because even with generationally speaking, I feel that when we begin to do womb work, we realize there are gifts that we've inherited. There are also a lot of dead dreams that never came into fruition. And so that's kind of the aspect of it that becomes really important, to get connected to our womb and to really live that full life that is meant for us. Because if not, we're not truly alive. We're simply living out roles that others have assigned to us, whether it's cultural or family, all these different things. So I really, it actually, even talking about, even saying it, like, it does make me sad, because there is so many women that are living disconnected from their source. And although it's not easy, it's not difficult to begin to attune to everything that we are, which means connecting with the earth, connecting with, with what's around us, are bringing into life the interconnected nature of what a woman's blueprint is. And so when we're disconnected, we're going to feel disconnected from everything, because we believe ourselves separate, when truly it really, so many times, it's just the awareness of beginning to see ourselves in nature, seeing how similar so many things in nature are to us. It's our teacher, a great teacher. Our cycle being so important, and an important aspect of a woman's blueprint, and yet so many women do not feel a connection to their cycle unless they're bleeding, or they're in pain, or they're kind of forced to look at that. Yet our cycle is our most precious treasure. And you are so right when you say, I wish younger women were talking about this or had access to this, which is our work, right? This is why we're sitting here having this conversation. It's because we learn, and as we get older, elder, I like to call it, we do inhabit a wisdom that needs to be shared. And so the cycle specifically is so important in this reality, because the world as we have it today is designed for a man's cycle, for a 24-hour cycle, right? That's what men's blueprint, that's how it functions. And so we see business reflected to that cycle. Yet we are out here trying to adhere to a 24-hour cycle when ours is 28 days. And when you realize that, you start to see, oh wow, I've been beating myself up for not being able to work out every morning, for not waking up at 4 a.m. For, that world reflects to us inconsistency, right? It reflects to us that, and so we start to judge ourselves and define ourselves with that, where we don't belong to that cycle. Ours is 28 days. So when we start to work with what happens every week, and we know, okay, this is what's happening in my hormones this week, so I'm going to feel a little bit more inward. Maybe now is not the time for me to try to make it to all the social events, and so you begin to work with that. And there's so many women now that I am working with in leadership that are actually, in insurance, real estate agencies. They're out there in the world, and they're syncing their business to their cycle, and they're seeing how much more efficient it's becoming, because woman is not designed to be productive. We're not productive. We are efficient. And that efficiency comes from being able to know when the energy is right and ripe, and approaching it in that way. And so it's a very creative way of living, kind of like artists, right? Artists understand it well because that's how creativity cycles work. But yet we don't realize that we are artists, that we are designing that way. And the more that we can begin to incorporate that in little ways into our daily lives, even, then we begin to really reap the benefits and understand, wow, I have been so burnt out. I have been trying so hard to, be happy or do well in this environment, but it's not working, right? And then when they implement these things, they realize, wow, this is the difference. Because even though it is a little bit more challenging, because of course we have everything that's telling us it's the 24-hour cycle, right? And so, but that's where we get to implement our sovereignty. And that's why it does require, a woman is a benevolent queen when she is embodied, when she is in attune with what her skills, her talents, and her beauty is, and how to contribute that into the world. So for me, now, the people that are around me, they understand that about me, that sometimes I am not available because I'm not available. It's time for me to, be in my home and nurture and do my things. And so that has only come through me being able to say, this is important to me. And so that's where that takes a lot, because we tend to be people pleasers, and we want to do it all, and and different things for each of us. Yet the power really comes alive when we begin to work with our cycle, with our womb, with our bodies, clearing the centers of our energetic body. And that's when we actually have access to a greater clarity in inquiry, asking, what are we here to do? What are my gifts?
Oh, beautiful, so beautiful. And when you're speaking about having this power to decide what is needed, when is needed, like being so attuned with the cycles and the seasons and the needs of the collective too, individually, but also collectively. That's
Mhm.
such a beautiful realm to work in. And we're not there yet. I mean, many of us are not there yet, but we're aiming to achieve that. I feel like in that conversation, the topic of death is so relevant because what I've seen, many women so afraid of dying and death in general, and it's part of nature and it's part of the cycle, and because we're so afraid of letting go, we create attachments, and then we're even, if we were lost in the beginning, now we're lost and attached, and that's even harder to break those patterns. And so you work a lot with grief and with death. You are so good at helping women break free from those fears that are actually not something that we should be afraid of, because as a cycle, if we want to rebirth and reemerge from darkness and from the underworld, we need to let go. We need
Yes.
to let something die in exchange. So in your experience and in your work with women, what do you feel that are some of the most common blockages that arise when they are beginning to tap into the royal essence? How can they navigate these challenges?
Mm. Death and rebirth is a woman's birthright. Our bodies are designed for birth, and they are designed to menstruate. And so what that does is every month we are reminded we hold the power of death within our bodies. And that is very powerful, because when we can learn that death is not, or rebirth, menstruation, they're not words to be afraid of, but rather allies that we can begin to work with. And when I speak of death, this means creating space within us, right? So you talking about attachments, right? Like, well, we start to get attached to this and that, and identity, culture, I am this, and all of those labels. Someone taught us those labels, and they are not truly who we are. They are aspects that describe who we are. And when we are stepping into a new identity or a more authentic place, we're going to have to surrender whatever has been falsely laid upon our bodies and our psyche and our spirit. And so that's where that this gift of death comes in, because we lay to rest those aspects that do not serve us where we are. They might have served us before. And so it's not to get rid of them, it is to transform them. And that's when death becomes rebirth. Just like in nature, when a tree dies and it falls over, it's not the end of its life. It transforms into something else. And now the soil begins to feed off of it. And now there's nutrients in the soil, and it's reborn again. So it's a cycle. And so for us, because we are a society that's pretty allergic to death, that grief, these are to feeling anything that can be negative. We're a little obsessed with the light and feeling good and happy. We're conditioned to what is a happy life, certain things like that then begin to take over, and anything that's uncomfortable we label as bad, move away from. And so when we're moving into our bodies, the first thing that we are going to feel probably is discomfort, because in the body we hold memory, and we hold memory of experiences. This is through our fascial network, our bodies. We hold memories within our womb. We hold, and this is called epigenetics, through epigenetics as well, right? We inherit trauma that's generational. And so all these things are alive in the body, but we're numb to them, or we're labeling them something else. So when we come into the body, this starts to awaken. And if we do not have the tools, the spaces, the facilitators that can support us in moving through those deep pain, through that deep feelings, then that's what's really scary, because the unknown is scary, right? The unknown requires a level of risk. And so if we are moving away from that, we're going to constantly be seeking something that feels good. And this is where we end up in addictions, in toxic relationships, because we're trying to give ourselves something through pleasure and through ephemeral things. We're trying to, whether it's like buying, shopping, shopping or food, or just constantly being on the move, traveling, what's the next nice restaurant, or, all of these things that move us outward can become distractions. And so when we return to the body, when we get into the womb, the deep heaviness begins to set in. And it's not a heaviness like, like, this is why a lot of people, I believe, who believe that they are depressed, it means that they are not in tune with their creative expression. And again, this is in my experience with the people I've worked with, right? And I understand it's a whole spectrum of that in that topic. However, when we're going into the body, we're going to naturally feel that heaviness. But that heaviness, what it means is it's bringing us down. It's like called the descent. We are descending. We are brought down to our knees. We are brought down to the soil. And it is only so that we can remember that that's where we come from. We come from life of earth. We come from our bodies, our vessels, they move us across time and space. And so when we begin to do the cleanup work there in the body, it is important that we have the support, because it is unknown territory. And that's what I believe makes someone very scared. I also have, I've had clients where they say they're very afraid of crying, of really letting go, because they feel that they will not come back from that. That once they open that door, they may not ever be able to come back. However, that's the fear of going into something that is going to liberate so much energy. And that's the fear there. Because everywhere where we are contracted, where we are holding grief within our bodies and our psyches, we are holding light hostage, because those are pockets of available energy that are not in movement. They are not in flow. And so what we're doing through grief work, through womb work, we are liberating that. We are opening up and we're looking at, what am I holding here? This memory, for myself, I had so much wounding around the masculine because of my lineage, because of my mother line. And so I believe things about the masculine that were inherited. They were not even my direct experience. And it was very painful, because again, we are shifting narratives. We are rebirthing narratives that have been generationally passed, and that, sometimes we're even doing that to our children, right? If we don't have the awareness, we're kind of programming them with our programs. And so it is interesting, that it does create a lot of fear, but the fear is at the beginning. And once you step into it, you realize it wasn't that scary at all. It was more the anticipation. And that's what takes most courage, is the walking towards that anticipation and not being afraid of it in that way. And I'm sorry, I'm gonna correct that. It's not about not being afraid. It's about being afraid and going anyway. Because if we wait until we are not afraid, it's never going to happen, because it's constantly going to be tugging at us. It's an unknown. You don't know what you're going to find there.
That is so true. Wow, there is so much wisdom in what you shared. Like, people will need to go back and re-listen to these like many times, because there's so much that you can dive deep into from what you're sharing. My last question for you, or the last point that I would like to touch on, is about leadership. I feel like this precise conversation that you were leading us into, death, rebirth, and the call into the underworld,
Mhm.
is something that we fear, but it's a call into our leadership. It's a call into our queendom, into our royalty that we fear. We're afraid of it. We're afraid to embody being royal. We're afraid to embody being so powerful and taking decisions and being sovereign, and
Mhm.
not depending on a system, on a government, on a healthcare provider, not depending on all of those external things. It's We're afraid because we probably have never seen it model anywhere else, and we
Mhm.
don't know how it works, and that's part of the unknown. How do I create something that I haven't seen before, that it does not exist? But in that conversation about leadership and about royal essence, tell me a little bit more about what you see. What's your vision for women who embody their divinity, their royalty, and who step into that leadership without any restraints? We were speaking at the beginning, these times are wild, and they're calling us to be wild as well, but we're so tamed. We're so in the cage that we're like, but what if? So what, in your visions, what does a liberated powerful queen
Mm.
look like?
Well, it's a big question, and so many ways we can approach it. I'm gonna address a couple of things where I feel that one of the things that is so important for us in our bodies is to feel safety, a self-sourced safety. So that means that we begin to when we go inward, when we go into the womb, and again, this is why we're doing this work, because then we begin to feel that sovereignty. We begin to feel that I can make decisions for my body that I can trust. So it's a relationship of building trust with self. Unfortunately, for many, many generations, women's voices, bodies, stories have been silenced. And so this is why it's almost like, for me, I feel like we're not doing anything new. We're remembering. We're remembering what has been cut off throughout time, right? And so when the way that we remember, and the way that I find that I utilize and works so well, is through storytelling, which is big, but archetypal work. So, where I work with archetypes such as Mary Magdalene, Inanna, the Black Madonna, there's all these beautiful archetypes that they already hold the wisdom that we are remembering through our healing journeys and our bodies. And I specifically really love Mary Magdalene archetype because she embodies the full spectrum of what it is to be a woman with spiritual power. And when we can begin to read those stories, it actually elicits an internal permission. And so many times, and I know, Monica, this must have happened to you at some point, that you're reading something and your body just has this kind of this movement of energy, where you get like goosebumps, and because it recognizes something that the body knows, but our mind has forgotten. And so working with archetypes can be very powerful, because when you read those stories, you begin to remember that you are part of that story, and you begin to see the qualities that this particular archetype embodied, so that the tools or what it takes to be able to live that out. And when a woman is in tune with her safety, then we are more liberated to take external risk. Because again, women is designed for safety. We're looking for resources. How do we keep our young safe? Biologically, we are wired to look for safety. And many of us are looking for that safety in the wrong places, right? And even in pain, because pain sometimes becomes the safety because we know it. And so we keep choosing relationships, we keep choosing circumstances that make us feel a sense of known, of familiarity, but it's not true safety. And so the safety, when we go inward and we begin to trust, now I can say, Monica, this is what I believe about this. And it's coming from a place that's centered. And now we can have a conversation about it, versus I'm just asking, well, what do you think? What do you think I should do? What do you think and so it really becomes about, we give away our power to structures of power externally. So when you're talking about this royal rebirth, what I hear and what I sense is that we are reinstating the authority structures within ourselves. We are taking a seat in our throne, which is our birthright. Creative beings. We are women. We birth in the world. And one of the things that I also feel is that there's so much speak of manifestation, right? Like manifesting. Manifesting is quite easy, actually. It doesn't take much. And men, women can do it. But what I'm more interested in is what we can birth, not just manifest. Because when a woman births something through her whole body and her being, it is a sustainable, life affirming gift to the world. I can manifest a car. That's not really going to serve the world in any particular way, other than it gets to serve me, right? It serves me, myself, serving desires. Yet when I am here birthing a body of work, and I am committed to that alignment, and I am bringing it through, I am not rushing it. I am trusting its timing, just like I would a child. Because just as we have the blueprint to create in our womb, to co-create, there's already a blueprint that's invisible that we don't need to think about that happens. The same thing happens with our creations that are birthed from that space. Can be books, can be businesses. But the difference in that is that it is infused with life force. So therefore, it goes out and it multiplies. It goes out and becomes fruitful versus, really manifesting and creating from a mind level. And I think that this is the beauty of, our relationships. So when we both can come in with our gifts, honoring the masculine for their gifts, because they are able to do things that it's not our nature, and same, right? But when we can honor each other, then that's when we really begin to create a movement that can shift globally. Right now, I feel that what we're waking up to is having the conversations, because the truth is that there has been so much division laid on us and taught to us that we don't even know how to communicate, even in relationships, right? And we have these expectations, and we have this is what I need, and we're not listening to the other because we're too busy asking for what we think we need. And so I really feel that even that womb work coming into the body, it asks us to listen, quiet, bring it into the body, bring it into the belly, bring it in, go out in nature, listen, but listening in a way that we're not just simply listening with our ears, we're listening with our whole being. And that's what allows us to tune into what are the things that are really being said, because women have this beautiful gift of being able to know that, when someone's lying, if you're very honest with yourself, you can pick that up. But most of us want to lie to ourselves. It's because we're still clinging to a sense of safety that is out there. And so that doesn't allow me to be honest with myself because I am attached to that. And so this is where, that's why a queen, a benevolent queen, it is holy work, sacred work, because you are humbled into radical honesty with yourself. But through that radical honesty with self, that's where you get to touch the authenticity of who you are, which is a child of the divine, which is light and expression and emanation of the divine to the world. And so that's royal essence to me. The royal essence is that when we meet each other in that way, we have eradicated division, we have eradicated envy, jealousy, all these things that keep women apart, that keep a distance and a wedge, because we understand that each of us has a unique gift, flavor, color that is very important in the great tapestry of what is being woven in the planet. And so it really, it's almost like you turn the world upside down, right? Because now it becomes living from our inner world and expressing it out into the world. Because that's the other thing that I feel inside of a rich queendom, is that you don't just hoard that for yourself, but you naturally overflow it and share it with others. And now it comes giving generosity from a place of that, like, I cannot help but do that, because that is what's happening, rather than trying, well, if I'm generous and if I'm nice, then I will get this, or I will be loved. We're not seeking for that. And in that not seeking is where we actually truly get what we need, what our souls need to feel nourished and connected. Long answer.
Oh no. Oh my goodness. So people, I should have warned you. You should have brought your notebooks. You should have brought something to write all of these nuggets of wisdom. But go back and watch again. Listen to these words. There's so much depth, wisdom, power, so many codes and activations that you're sharing so generously with our audience. Annabelle, what a beautiful transmission. What a beautiful being you are. I can hear you speak all day long. And thank you. Thank you for all the work that you're doing. Thank you for being so majestic in
Mhm.
presence, knowledge, embodiment. Thank you so much for all of it.
Thank you, Monica. I appreciate it. And you too for putting your gifts out there, being the queen that you are, and expressing that and sharing that with others, because that's all that I was just saying is what you are modeling for us as well. And
Mm,
these are the living examples We can look at archetypes, but when we have living, breathing human examples, then that just amplifies our energy field, and it allows the quickening of things to happen.
That is so true. Thank you, Annabelle. Thank you for your wisdom. Thank you for your journey and the juiciness that you have shared with us today. And to our audience, thank you for joining us today. If this conversation has sparked something in you, I invite you to reflect on how can you begin to embody your divine royalty in every aspect of your life, whether it's through nurturing your body, leading, embracing your power, or just feeling more courageous, giving yourself more grace to take the next step. You are worthy. You have always been.
Yes.
Until next time, keep embodying your truth and shining your light. As Annabelle said, the world needs your magic. Thank you for joining us on this activation today. I'm sending you all my love and blessings.